Photoshop has a watercolor filter that converts a picture to a watercolor version of itself. Go to Filter, Artistic submenu. This is the watercolor filter dialog box. It has a thumbnail view of your picture and sliders that allow you to set the way in which picture is converted. Zoom in or out on the thumbnail image. You can slide it around to see the effect of your settings on different parts of the photo. Most Photoshop filters have dialog boxes and settings very much like this one. It is very easy to use them once you have tried one. Could you see the thin line under the number? When it flashes, it tells you that the computer is calculating the filter effect. It flashes till it's done. Sometimes it can take up to 2 minutes of calculation time. You will learn more about the filters in the chapter Filter. The option box includes a brush detail setting field that varies from 1 to 14. By setting the slider or using the numeric window, you can control its effect on the thumbnail image, but check all changes on your real image. It gives you more detail. The shadow intensity can be set from 0 to 10. For this image, I don't need its effect and adjust it at 0. The texture settings have a range from 0 to 3. I set it to 3, and I check its effect, and I go back and change the brush detail value, and so on, till I will find my final setting for the picture. It is your turn now to experiment on your image. The next step is to paint in watercolor. First, I have to open a new canvas. You know how now. I named it, and then I select the paintbrush tool. For your learning experience, it can be helpful to follow my examples, like this here. I choose a smaller, hard-edge size brush, because like painting on paper, you often start with an outline and then fill in the details. And I switch to swatches to select the color I want to paint with. I will paint a flower, and I will start with its stem and leaves, and so I choose the green I like for it. Normal settings and 100% capacity are quite right for this project. First I draw the stem and then the leaves as an outline. I need another color. This might not have the right watercolor look for you. Experiment with your image by setting the opacity to lighten or darken a color slightly. To clean up around the edges, paint with a light soft edge brush. You can use the eraser to fill in the details, as if it were a brush full of plain water. This gives it a nice watercolor look. The canvas texture comes the closest to replicating watercolor paper, especially if you scale it down some. I like to set it at about 70 to 80% with a relief height of 3 or 4. Use the sliders to set relief and scaling. I find that applying the same texture a second time with the light coming from the opposite direction gives me the best imitation of textured paper. After we paint in watercolor, let's try to turn a scene into oil painting. Of course, Photoshop provides a filter for that, the underpainting filter. I'm going to use this water landscape picture and crop it to the frame size I like. Then I select the underpainting filter, Filter Artistic Underpainting. It opens the underpainting option window. It has similar functions like the water painting option window. The brush size settings range 0 to 40. Smaller brushes retain more of the texture and detail of the original image, and larger brushes can remove all the detail. Texture settings also ranges on a scale from 0 to 40. Lower numbers here reveal less of a texture, higher numbers bring out more of it. For my picture, I set the brush size to 3 and the texture coverage to 3. You always have to check the image by setting any values. Further, I set the texture to canvas and scaling to 65%. You want to keep the texture small so it doesn't interfere with the detail you will be adding to the picture later on. Relief to 8 and the light direction to top. This shows just enough texture to establish that my painting is on canvas rather than stone. I click OK to apply the filter. Looks like an oil painting. Almost. Now it is ready for some retouching with oil paint. To paint with oil paint over the image is one option. You can try it, and it might work for some images. It doesn't work for this example. Photoshop has a filter collection that allows you to use a graphics tablet instead of a mouse for retouching and drawing. I want to get the look of a pencil drawing, and I try the colored pencil filter. You can find this filter here. Go to Filters, Artistic, Colored Pencil. It opens this option window, and I can retouch it and add a drawing look to it. Try it with one of our images. The colored pencil filter gives you a light stylized drawing from your original image. That's the look I want. Another great filter option is the crosshatch filter. Choose Filters, Brush Strokes, Crosshatch. Like the Color filter, it has an option window. Set the parameter and check out the changes you can make. The crosshatch filter changes more the color and the detail, but still looks like a pen and ink drawing. Try to apply Colored Pencil filter and the crosshatch filter to other photographs. I will convert my new select image to chalk and charcoal drawing. The Chalk and Charcoal Filter dialog box is accessible by choosing Filter, Sketch, Chalk and Charcoal. It is good to start in the middle of the value range and decrease or increase by controlling the image. It reduces the picture to 3 color levels: gray, black, and white. Chalk uses the background color and charcoal becomes the foreground color. Areas that aren't colored appear in gray. By using these filter combinations, you can get good results if you set the foreground to black and the background to white. Try all the other filters too. Only if you know them can you choose and apply a filter successfully.